Welcome to session 8 in this week's study of Lifeway Explore the Bible. My name is Caleb. The title of this week's lesson is Grace. The theme is Jesus offers grace to all people. We're in Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. I'll be working off the Leader's Quick Source Guide today. Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And going out about the third hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to them he said, "You go into the vineyard too. Whatever is right, I will give you." So they went. Going out again about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, he did the same. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing. And he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You go into the vineyard too." And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last up to the first." And when those hired about the 11th hour came, each of them received a denarius. Now when those hired first came, they thought they would receive more. But each of them also received a denarius. And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last worker as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or do you begrudge my generosity? So the last will be first, and the first last." It says it was a landowner. The ESV uses the term master of the house. CSB, landowner. In this parable, the landowner represents God. And when it says that it was early in the morning, the writer of the lesson says this could have been around 6 a.m., the start of a typical 12-hour Jewish work day during harvest season. Vineyards were common images of Jesus's parables. Often in Scripture, vineyards symbolized the nation of Israel. A denarius was a typical day's wage. This would have been considered fair compensation for a day's work in a vineyard. The day laborers would gather in the market and wait to be hired. The landowner made several trips to the marketplace to enlist workers. These workers would put in only 1 hour of work, in contrast to the early workers who had been in the vineyard for nearly 12 hours. The law demanded workers to be paid at the end of the day. Jesus used paying the men in reverse order to establish the main point of his parable. When it says there was an assumption made in verse 10, if you look at verse 10 with me, it says, "Now when those hired first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius." They made an assumption. They had an expectation that was not reality. They forced their perceived notions and expectations onto God rather than letting God have his say in the situation, which he would have his say in the situation. It would be natural for the early workers to expect more than those who worked only an hour. They considered it unfair. While the landowner's pay may have been surprising, it was fair. He had lived up to their agreement. The landowner had the right to do what he chose with his own resources. His generosity to those hired at 5 p.m., the lesson says, reflects God's grace and generosity in offering salvation to everyone. Jesus was reiterating his message about judgment and rewards in Matthew 19:30. Those considered last by the world will be honored in God's kingdom. The main points are workers hired from verses 1 through 7. The lesson says Jesus told a parable about a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them the usual daily wage of 1 denarius. The landowner hired more workers at 9 in the morning, at noon, and at 3 and 5 in the afternoon. Point number 2, equally paid, from verses 8 through 12. At the end of the workday, the landowner paid the laborers, starting with the group that came in last. He gave each worker 1 denarius, regardless of the number of hours they worked. Those who worked longer hours complained, thinking they deserved more pay. Thirdly, grace exemplified, from verses 13 through 16. The landowner in the parable told the workers he had the right to be generous to whomever he chose. He had agreed to pay the early workers 1 denarius, and he kept that promise. He was not being unfair by paying the others the same amount. Echoing his teaching in Matthew 19:30, Jesus again said that the last will be first and the first last. The summary statements are: Jesus offers grace to all people. We can trust God to always do what is right. We should be thankful God gives us more than we deserve. We should never cease to be amazed by God's grace. And the key doctrine is God. God is infinite in holiness and all other perfections. Cross-referencing Isaiah 40:25 and Matthew 6:9. By way of discussion, how do people today question God's fairness? How do some view his nature? How can you nurture contentment and appreciation in your life? God bless you as you teach his word this week.